Alright, so I'm making this video because Bungie tweeted out that based on player feedback, the featured dungeon this week has been changed to Prophecy, which personally I'm happy about. Um, Prophecy hasn't been farmable for a minute, and obviously they didn't give us a heads up prior, which honestly they should have given us a heads up at the beginning of the season or a lot sooner than the last week before it comes out. But it is what it is. It happened. I'm glad they are doing this though. Uh, People are upset because obviously they're like they want Ghosts of the Deep, I believe is what it is. It's supposed to be Ghosts, and I get it. People want Navigator. They want to farm those weapons because some good weapons. So this is why I'm making this. I think in reality dungeons have issues here. One, most of the weapons are pointless, and the few that aren't are well. Again, you gotta wait every so many weeks. Um, I think the best way they could do it is just allow dungeons to be farmable, period, at all times. Because the reality of the situation is, right, is dungeons are useless compared to raids, compared to nightfalls, compared to trials, even compared to all the craftable weapons. Nightfalls, it's very, or not night, sorry, dungeons are very rare to have something really good in it that they don't put somewhere else. The best example is Adjudicators coming back, right? And it's going to be insane. Even if they put shit perks on it, it's going to have one of the highest ranges of all the 600 SMGs base, as long as they don't fuck with it really badly. So, if they put anything good on it, it's going to be even better. Plus, the new intrinsic perk is absolutely cracked. It gives you more range and handling, and then the lower the mag, at the bottom half of the mag, it will give you increased damage, which that's just insane. So if they put target lock or kill clip or anything on it, golden tricorn, and that thing is just gonna be a monster for damage. Let's be honest here, especially for PvP. No Bungie, they'll make shit rolls for PvP, and it'll make everyone sad, but it's still gonna be one of the better ones because of that perk. But yeah, most of the dungeons don't have that. Like Shattered Throne, right? Shattered Throne should be updated. I know the weapons were updated in it, yeah, but the armor is still useless as a whole, in my opinion. Um, the mods for it are useless because you can't even get them unless you have the armor on. It's really bad. Those mods should be a thing. I apologize. I have allergies going crazy. I've taken medicine, but medicine says fuck you. Anyway, so yeah, I think dungeons just need to be farmable, period. Because the other thing is, people don't realize, is sunsetting will come back in some form, at least content-wise. And they can't keep adding dungeons forever, because they don't have the space for that. Especially if they add raids and content and other things. So, they're going to have to start getting rid of dungeons, which means one of two things. Bungie just needs to make the ones that they're going to get rid of have crafted weapons, which will piss a lot of people off. Or they just need to bring craft weapons to dungeons. But again, that'll make dungeons not farmable anymore. Once you get all the reds, who cares, right? So, yeah, so there's a problem there. So they have to do something. Personally, I think they should just make all dungeons farmable. That way, when they start to remove them, it's plenty of time because you're farmable all the time, no matter what. They should all be farmable. But there should still be weekly ones, and the weekly ones should offer something better. So, in exchange for if it's weekly one, right, you can farm artifice armor. And you're like, oh, well, you can do that anyways. If it's farmable at all times, master is there for those. But for those that don't have master, they either need to add master or give artifice. I think the best way to do it is make it where even normal mode will drop artifice armor when it's the week of it. I know artifice armor ain't that good right now because it's buggy and it's not working correctly. But if they fix that, then that could work. But then also at the same time, if people don't want that, it's like, that's the problem though. It's like they're going to have to start getting rid of dungeons sooner or later. There's just no way around it. If people have forgotten, that's a thing. So dungeons are going to start disappearing at some point. Raids are going to start disappearing again at some point. So we have issues here. And personally, I think dungeons are useless as a whole because, again, they either make the exact same weapon type craftable eventually that's cracked on perks, or they bring it out for like trials that gets an adept, or nightfalls to get an adept that's cracked as fuck. Adjudicator is literally the only exception for that rule in a while. Same thing, well, those weapons will be as a whole, but Adjudicator is like the most looked at one that's hopefully we get, and I'm excited for it too. So, but yeah, I think dungeons as a whole are a failure. I like they do it. They're fun. Some of them are kind of shit, but overall they're pretty fun. They're unique. But when they bring the exact same weapon types out eventually that are craftable, it makes it pointless. Hence, crafting is kind of a shit show. But they're going to have to start taking away dungeons at some point. That's the reality. Maybe it's another couple years we'll get out of it, but eventually we're gonna see bye-bye to dungeons. So if they don't want to make them all farmable at once, I think they should have 2 a week. And by that I mean Prophecy is the free one. If you're not aware, Prophecy is free for everyone. It's the only dungeon I believe that's free for everyone. Free to play players have it, everyone has access to it. I think it should be farmable no matter what at all times. Because when you make the other ones farmable, right, it doesn't work for people that haven't bought them. I know it's Bungie trying to incite people to buy, but it's not going to work because there's a lot of people that haven't bought any of the dungeons, especially when they added the dungeon key. A lot of them haven't been bought since then. So, yeah. The other thing is, it doesn't have an exotic. I know there was an exotic, I think it was Effigy, right? If I remember correctly. It was the eyeballs you had to shoot with it or some, or I don't know, it was one of the trace rifles. But the exotic, as far as I know, I don't believe it comes from that dungeon. I could be wrong. Maybe there's a quest in that dungeon to do it. I don't know. Obviously, I'm not sure because I've got it long ago and I don't know how it works now. I know the eyeballs were there, but I don't think it's tied. I still don't think it's tied to it. I'm not sure though. I'd have to look into that. But yeah, they should make Prophecy always farmable, period. That way it allows the ones that are bought to have more time. That's what I think. Personally, I think it should be like that. Prophecy is always farmable, and if they ever add another free one, which I am kind of hoping with that DLC or that Into Light thing they're releasing later this year, in a couple months, few months. I really hope they add another dungeon. I know that means that we get 2 dungeons in one season. Everyone will kind of hate that, but I would love that. Or if they update the other dungeons that haven't had an update in a while and give them exotics or give them better perks, better weapons, give them a master, like they do a little bit of that, I'd be okay with that too. Same thing with raids. Some of the raids that don't have master or have stuff to do, that'd be cool too. And make them craftable, obviously, for raids, but just to match out the other ones. But yeah, that's the thing. It's like dungeons are so pointless as a whole. Like Prophecy is the first one's actually gonna have a promise, but this week they're gonna do it so you can get the weapons that are going away, which is great. But then next week is the new weapons, so people are gonna be upset if they can't farm it because it's brand new weapons and only doing it, 3 times a week until it comes back around, which will be a couple weeks at the very least. Yeah, it's not gonna really balance out that well, personally. I like what Bungie's doing, but I see what people are complaining about. They are saying that kind of sucks because then they can't farm it next week. I agree with that, and that's why I think Prophecy should just be open purely at all times, no matter what. I think because it's free to play, at least if I remember correctly, it's free to play. It should be always farmable, period. That would save that issue, and that would also allow the other ones to keep doing it. The other problem I'm looking at is Prophecy keeps getting a weapon refresh and changes constantly because it's the free to play one and it's the one they're doing. But the other dungeons we've bought, they're never going to get a change. We bought them and we're never going to see a change to them. That's just facts. They're not going to do a perk update. They're not going to do anything to them unless we get really lucky, which I highly doubt. Extremely doubt, we're not going to see anything to them. So that kind of sucks. That Prophecy is the only one getting changed, which is great because I love the Trials of 9 weapons. But it'd be nice to see the same aspect and effort going to the other dungeons. They should be like a yearly thing. When it comes around every year, they add armor can stay the same. It doesn't matter. Fuck armor, okay? Like I'd like different armor, but let's just say fuck armor, right? Purely the weapons. They can take 1 or 2 weapons out of each dungeon at the least. Or just change the perk pools around. And it wouldn't take that much effort if it's changed the perk pools. Now, weapons, I get. That could take some effort. Or they could just make it all the weapons that came from the seasons that the dungeons were out, rotate those weapons around constantly. So that way, for people that haven't finished getting those weapons, there you go. And then that way there'd be craftable weapons in the dungeon too every so often, rotate it around. That could also work. Like, dungeons need adjusting because of this right here, what's happening, but also as a whole, dungeons are pointless after a certain point, and they're going to stay that way, especially with crafting being out, and eventually everything that's crafted will be what's in the dungeons. There's not going to be any uniqueness. And that's just the reality of it. And it sucks, but it's true. And I really wish Bungie would do something about that. I know it's kind of hard. I'm not going to lie. It's a really hard thing to do when they put craft in the game, especially. It made it really hard to make dungeons more useful. So the best they had was making the armor look really cool, the weapons look cool, and the visuals of the dungeon itself. But they weren't really able to do anything else past that point. Because they knew they're going to make crafted weapons. They're eventually going to have the same perks. So they got to give them slightly different intrinsics that maybe make it better. But obviously that didn't work too well either. So like the Ghost Deep one, finisher auto reloads, that one works right, but only for the rocket really. Everything else it's okay, but not practical. Not practical, it's not needed 100%. Then they did bad with the grenade launcher. They didn't give it shield clip, which was really dumb. Bad job on Bungie's part. But yeah, as you can see, there's a big problem between this system. And I really think their best option, at least right now, is once this new update happens on the 5th of March, they need to just make Prophecy purely farmable year round, no matter what. I think that honestly needs to be the case because it is free to play. It is for everyone. I think it's the most logical because obviously free to play players aren't going to get to farm it, but then also us, we could farm it. People that have bought stuff, and then it makes one weekly rotation, and that way you have one that you can always farm as well, especially the new weapon. So it's worth your time. You know what I mean? That's how I see it. I mean, again, I've messaged some people. I'm looking good. When I say I still agree with them. Like, that does suck. We have to wait several weeks to farm it again. By that logic, especially after we're just getting brand new weapons. But at the same time, I get it. We can farm the ones that are going away right now, so it makes it really good too. I do wish we had more time. They shouldn't have probably set it up for this week. They should have told us prior. It was really bad part on Bungie for that, but at the same time, I do understand how much of a pain in the ass it is to make dungeons more practical, especially when they're content that are going to stay the exact same, and Prophecy is the only one changing. The other ones will always be the exact same. Hence why they're definitely going to start removing them at some point. So I would recommend farming what you want. If there's anything you want from a dungeon at any point, any of the weapons, you should definitely go farm it now. Like if it's the week of, because you're not gonna eventually, once Final Shape is done, I'm telling you now, there's gonna be a massive sunsetting of stuff. There's gonna have to be. Because Bungie's made it very apparent they can't increase their servers any bigger than they are, basically. Maybe a little bit more, but not much. Hence why we got all this sunsetting of content anyways. So, in my opinion, I think Final Shape will be in there, because that is also what they said in the Vidoc. There'll be nothing sunset up to Final Shape, is what their words were, which means past Final Shape, content going away again, at some point. Maybe it's a year, maybe it's two, eventually we're going to lose a whole bunch of content again. And I get it, I do understand the logic behind it. It sucks, I hate it, because we pay for it, but I do actually understand the logic for it, because there's not a lot of room. They don't have big servers. And yes, people say updating the new servers, and I agree. If they updated the new servers, it would be a lot better. It would take a while for them to update to new servers, and it would take effort. But I agree it would be a better option. Maybe they are secretly in the background. Who knows? But anyways, my point is dungeons need a whole something done to them where that actually works. I think the first step should be Prophecy's farmable year-round. Period. I think that would really help out massively. It allows less dungeons at the moment to be in the cycle for the weeks, and that way you have more chances with them as well. We have one extra week with them all, which is better. It's a lot better than not. So I think that should be the first step. The second step should be some sort of loot rework constantly every year with them. The year of the date they're released or something, or something around that or something. I don't know. Like I said, there's a lot they could do with it. But yeah. So we'll see. I figure raids will be removed before the dungeons, probably, because the dungeons don't take up as much space like a raid. But I figure it'd probably be both of them eventually getting removed. They could make it where all the raids, if there's a dungeon that's of the same year, they could put all the raid weapons in the rotation for the dungeon weapon eventually one day. That could work too. I mean, there's a whole different options. But the dungeons might stay a lot longer, but eventually something's got to go. Either we lose a ton of planets, we lose some raids, and we lose some dungeons, or we lose just one of them, or a mix of them or something. So, yeah. I'm just making this video because I wanted to point out, like, dungeons are a bit iffy right now. This change they're doing, it's a good change, but it's also a bad change because, yes, people are right. We're losing it and not going to see it for a few weeks past the point when it sets. So Bungie's either going to have to just make it permanently unlocked, or at least these 2 weeks, and then have the other ones with it, or just permanently unlock it totally. That's my opinion. Just saying. I know I rambled a lot. I apologize. If you enjoyed the video, let me know what you think dungeons should be done. What do you think dungeons change should be? Let me know. Wish y'all a good day. We out. Audio.